The last contender in the Western Conference to talk about today is the Dallas Mavericks. I had a lot of questions about them going to the previous year, and they proved me wrong, absolutely. Because with the original addition of Kyrie and Luka, they didn't make the playoffs at all. They fell out of the playoffs completely. But as time went on, we kind of saw that was a logical decision from the front office, because it ended up leading them to getting a higher draft position, and they went out and got Derek Lively with that, and he ended up being a very, very key piece, a very solid contributor for the Dallas Mavericks as a rookie, and in his sophomore year, he's only going to be better. So I think Derek Lively is going to be huge for the Mavericks this year. Obviously, Luka Doncic is great. He's absolutely in the MVP discussion. Kyrie Irving is probably one of, if not the best second option in the entire NBA. Kyrie could be the number one option on about half the teams in the league right now. So I think Kyrie is going to be very solid for them again. And that backcourt, having a guy like Kyrie can take the offensive load off of Luka a little bit. And I say that, and that's crazy to think because Luka has such a high usage rate. But if you're able to lean on Kyrie, then that opens the door for Luka Doncic to be a little bit better of a defender because he can focus more on that end of the ball. And that happened a little bit last year. I think it's going to be about the same. Luka isn't as terrible as a defender as he once was. So just having Kyrie there, it allows Luka to be a little bit better of a defender and unlock his potential there as a big point guard. But some other additions that Dallas Mavericks made, this one being at the trade deadline, were P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford. And so with Derek Lively, I mentioned I think he's going to have a big sophomore year. They got another center that's just as good, and that's Daniel Gafford. They had a great two-man center rotation out there with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. I think both these guys could be starters in their own right. So to have two of them at the center position, that shows you up at that position for sure. And it's such a far cry from when they were running Dwight Powell out there. So I think that's just going to be great for the Dallas Mavericks. And P.J. Washington as well is a really, really solid role player. And for a team like the Mavericks who don't have the best defenders, especially in the backcourt, to have a forward like that who's a good 3-and-D guy, sometimes a good 3-and-D guy, sometimes he's not the best space on the floor, but who has potential to be a good 3-and-D guy, who's a good defender, and just a solid all-around glue piece, P.J. Washington is really huge for this team. So for the Dallas Mavericks, I had a lot of questions about them going into last year, but they proved me wrong. They made it to the finals, only losing to a stacked Celtics team. I think the Dallas Mavericks are absolutely going to be contenders again, if not be even better this year. If you enjoyed this video, it would be great if you could find it in you to like, subscribe, maybe check out the full podcast on Spotify, follow us on there, follow us on Instagram. I know realistically this podcast isn't going to go anywhere ultimately, whether it's via the segments on YouTube or the entire podcast itself. But I want to get into the sports broadcasting business. I want to be able to promote thought-provoking discussions about the NBA, and I would love to do it via State of the Association. Thank you if you made it all the way through.